Okay, so I'm gonna continue with general purpose I/O ports, and this is I think where we stopped last time. So now last time we looked at outputting using LEDs, 7-segment LEDs. Well, now general purpose I/O ports could also be used for input as well. So it's those same pins that you can connect to hardware and for both input and output purpose. This is showing an example of using it as input. So this is an example where you have like a joystick. You may have seen these, right? So it's on a small device. You could do push it up, down, left, right, and then center, right? So there are 5 possible switches in here, but each time you can do at most one of them, and it's controlled using just one little stick, depending on the direction. And so you can view a joystick as 5 switches in one package, and you can choose one of them at a time. And this could be done using a GPIO. Well, so, and you've seen how switches are connected, right? So most of the time they're disconnected, and when you press the button, then it connects it to ground. Otherwise, it's pulled up by default to the supply level. And so now to read the input, what you have to do, remember, is to initialize at least this style of GPIO port to all ones. Remember why ones? Because that is what allows it to go up to pull up mode, right? Because if you set it to 0, then it pulls it down low. Then it's impossible for the button to override that value, right? Whereas if it's set, the GPIO pin is set to 1, then that allows the button to either remain at 1 or pull down to low, right? So before you read from the pins, what you need to do is set it to all ones, and that's done with a simple move, and you can do hex FF, right, to the port P3. And then once that's the case, then you can read from it. Okay, you don't have to do it every time if you know upfront that you will be using a set of pins only for input. Then at the beginning, you just initialize those to ones, or even by power up default, GPIO pins almost always get the all ones. And by that, I mean at least all the 8051 GPIO pins I know, by default on power up, they go to all ones. So it's safe to input. You need to change it only if you try to use those pins more aggressively, both as input and as output over different times. Then yes, then you have to set the particular pin to 1 before you can read from it. Otherwise, think of it as 1 being allowing input. And to read from the pin, you just say move, and then from the port P3, for example. You could read the whole 8 bits at a time, or you could read 1 bit at a time. So if you do move A comma P3, that instruction reads all 8 pins of P3 to the accumulator A. If you read 1 bit at a time, then you do P3.0, P3.1, or any one of those into C. Remember, right? That's the carry flag, because that's used as the kind of like bit accumulator. So how do you know if a button is pressed or not? Then the way to do it is, if you know the schematic, then you know if it's pressed, it's 0. If it's not pressed, it's 1. Okay. So that's how you can read the input from like a joystick. So this is really just to give you another look at this. So when a port is outputting a 1, that allows the pin part to be either 0 or 1. And because of the pull-up, that conflict between a 0 and 1 is not a short circuit, okay? Because the resistor is there to limit the current. So that is not a short circuit. But if you don't have the resistor and if you just connect directly to power or ground, then yes, then or at least one of them, or at least if you don't have the pull-up, you connect directly to power, then yes, that could actually be a short circuit, right? In case they don't agree. So now, this has to do with how you implement the port and pin interface. Okay, and the way it's done is what's called open collector or open drain.